It's so nice to get to actually see all these people at least once a year and get to actually interact with some of these people who you don't get to see very often and get to talk about C++ things and other things as well.
My name is Ruibo, and today I'm going to talk about application of C++ in computational cancer modeling. So before we hopping into the main topic, I'm going to bother you a little bit of myself. So I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Washington, Department of Applied Mathematics. So I'm working in a cancer modeling group, which leads by Professor Eigen Bojic. And my personal focus is modeling evolution of cancer initiation. And so most researching projects in our group involve doing computer simulation. And this, of course, includes my research project. And at UW, I came across Daniel Hansen, who is an expert in C++ and computational finance. And he introduced me a lot of interesting and useful feature in modern C++. And we found that some features are really helpful in doing computer simulations. And that's basically the story for today's talk. And so this is the outline of today's talk. And there's going to be a mathematical model of cancer evolution. And to get actual biological insights of the mathematical model, we need to do computer simulations. And performing computer simulation in this talk involving 3 steps. So the first thing is to generate a single tumor. And this is basically a while loop of a single step of evolution until the maximum time. And the second thing is to generate multiple tumors. And we want to do it in a parallel way so it can save us time. And the final thing is to obtain the statistical properties of these tumors. And I'm going to do it via using some parallel version of certain STL algorithms. So this is a CPP conference, so I'm going to put my emphasis on CPP features. So the first thing I'm going to mention is the Eigen library. So for those of you who don't familiar with it, Eigen is a C++ template library for linear algebra. It provides containers for matrices, vectors, and it also provides algorithms for numerical analysis. And in addition to that, I'm also going to mention some important features in modern C++ that are helpful in computer simulations. They are pseudo random number generation, which was introduced in C++ 11 in the header random, and also the task-based concurrency. This feature was introduced also in C++ 11, and which is in the header future. And also, I'm going to use some parallel versions of certain STL algorithms. I believe they were introduced in C++ 17. So I'll start from cancer. So cancer basically is a genetic disease that gives rise to uncontrolled division of abnormal cells. And many types of alterations in genes can cause cancer, including mutations and chromosome alterations. So in today's call, I'm going to focus on mutations. And the importance of, modeling the initiation of cancer is that when cancer is found early, it may be easier to treat or cure. And so mathematical models can help us to understand this evolution in a quantitative way. For example, we may predict the window of opportunity for screening. And as you can see, I have put a plot of the initiation of a tumor here. So there are many stages before the actual cancer, and we want to capture some early tumors so that we can prevent it from developing into an actual malignant cancer. Okay, so the computational model I'm going to present you today is actually quite simple. So we consider a bunch of pseudo cells. These cells are going to live in the computer instead of on the plates. And we classify these cells into different types. And based on their genetic profile, and these genetic information are going to determine the cellular behavior. And here is a kind of a schematic plot of what individual cells can do in this model. So they can do 2 things. They can alter its type into another cell through a mutation event. And they can also give birth to 2 daughter cells through a birth event. And then mathematical interesting thing is that these events are happening at random time. So the mutation events are going to be controlled by the mutation rate, and the burst event are going to control by the growth rate. So, so then we want to sample this kind of random time, which are exponentially distributed in C++. And to do this, we basically include the random header file. And there are two steps here. So the first step is to construct a random number generator. So this is a random engine that provides an uniform distribution of integers. And the second step is to create an instance of the target distribution. And here is the exponential distribution. So essentially, this distribution is a map from the uniformly distributed integers to your desired distribution. And after calling this exponential distribution, you can get a sample of the time. Okay, so here's the kind of schematic plot for the actual biological process I'm looking at. So initially, there are a bunch of healthy cells. So they are not dividing. They're in a homeostatic state. And after some time, there are some mutations will occur, and which, like in this example, it will transfer one dark blue healthy cell into a yellow cell. And after some more time, more genetic alterations may happen and may transfer a yellow cell into an orange cell. And this time, in this example, we assume it's going to be activated by the driver gene, and it's going to start and develop its own colony. And after some more time, an orange cell may evolve into a red cell, which represents an actual cancer. And this is kind of the end of the procedure we're looking at. And as programmers, we care about input and output of the model. So the input of our model are going to be the parameter values, including the initial condition and also these transition rates. And the output of this model is going to be the population sizes at desired time points. So since we have cells of many types, we're going to use a vector to store these population sizes at a single time. And we want those population sizes at multiple time points. So this motivates us to store it in a 2D array. And in addition to that, we need many simulated tumors for understanding their statistical properties. For example, we might be interested in the waiting time to each type. And also, we might be interested in like the distribution of population size for cell of a certain type. And so now I'm going to tell you how to do this in C++. And I'm going to construct a class called tumor generator. And so the first instance we're going to looking at is the initial population. So I have mentioned that these populations are vectors. So I'm going to use an Eigen array to store this population. As you can see, the type name is called Eigen array XD, in which this single X means that I'm going to create a dynamic array. And there's only one X, so it's going to be a 1D object. And the D here means the double floating number. So it means that in my array, these elements are double precision float numbers. And there are some other parameters, including the maximum time interval, Tmax, and also the time gap between the observations. It's dt. And what makes things more complicated is that these mutations may happen in any order, and so it leads to a very complicated transition from healthy cells to cancerous cells. And here we would like to use a weighted directed graph for representing this transition network. And mathematically, this is going to be an adjacent matrix with numbers corresponding to the weights in this network. And we're going to use a Eigen 2D array to store this matrix here. So this is an an actual example that we have in the biology. So for colorectal cancer, it might be initiated by like 5 mutations. And these 5 mutations are going to form a really complicated transform network from healthy cells to cancerous cells. So in this figure, these squares are genetic types of the cells, and they can mutate to each other through transitions, which are represented by these arrows. So now I'm going to introduce you the actual implementation. So we would like to track the population sizes of a single tumor, and we do it by using a 2D array in Eigen. So as you can see, this is achieved by the member function of the tumor generator class called single tumor. And the input of this function is going to be a random seed. And here the very first step is to set the seed of the random engine through this random number generator. And I have to note that this RND generator is a member function of the tumor generator class. And the output of the single tumor is going to be a 2D array that collects all the time points as well as the population sizes. So in this example, there are 4 types of cells. So you can see we want the first column to store those time points, and we want the rest of the 4 columns to give us the population sizes at those desired times. And so the very first thing to do is to compute those time points. So to do that, Eigen provides a very convenient way to do this. That is the method function length space. So this length space function is going to give us a sequence of numbers indicating by the initial value and the end value and the number of points in between. And after computing these time points, we would like to put them into the first column of the matrix. And to do this, we're going to use an operation called the block operation provided by Eigen. So essentially, block operation provides a convenient way to get access to a block of entries in the 2D array at once. And so after that, we're going to have a while loop of single step of evolution. And at those desired time points, we're going to collect those population vectors into this table by using another block operation, as you can see here. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about a single step of evolution. So this is a quite complicated procedure. But basically, we have 3 steps here. So firstly, we want to compute a matrix called the weights matrix. And next, we're going to determine the arrival time of the next event by sampling an exponentially distributed random variable. So this is going to be achieved by the member function called lifespan. And finally, we're going to normalize these weights in the matrix to get the probabilities for those possible events, and then sample a random variable to decide which event happened. It can be either a mutation event or a birth event. And this is going to be achieved by another member function, so called increment type here. And I don't have too many time to go into every detail, so I'm only going to mention like 2 important steps here. So the first important step is absolutely to compute the weights matrix. So essentially here, we would like to multiply each column of the transition rates matrix with the population vector at a time in an element-wise way. So this seems to be pretty complicated, but I can provide a method called the code-wise, and you can use the code-wise to perform column-wise operations on a 2D array directly. And another step I want to mention is to sample a position in a matrix randomly according to their values. So this is going to be the way we determine what is the next event in our cancer evolution. So so here we are going to use this discrete distribution, which is a feature in the random header. And essentially, this discrete distribution is going to construct a distribution on the integers with weights in a container. So here, our container is this 2D array. And the very first thing we do is to use the reshape method provided by Eigen to reshape this 2D array into a one-dimensional object. And the usefulness of this reshape is that these STL iterators are designed to iterate over 1D structure. So the begin and end methods are actually disabled for a 2D array. So after this reshape, we can put these weights inside the constructor argument of this discrete distribution. And okay, so what it does is that so it's going to create a distribution over integers, and then the probabilities are going to be proportional to the values in the weight matrix. And the next step is that we can select an integer according to those probabilities fairly easily through the discrete distribution. And finally, to find out this position we have, we need to convert. Note that in the previous step, we have selected an integer. So this integer is going to be the position in the 1D object. And we're going to convert this position into the column index and the row index in the 2D object. So this is achieved by this blue box, a little bit arithmetic. Okay, so now I have finished introducing like how to generate a single tumor, and now we're going to generate a lot of tumors. So this is I'm going to use the task-based concurrency, which is a very efficient way to parallel things. And essentially, each tumor is going to be a parallel task, and we're going to construct a vector of future objects for getting those arrays. And for each future object, we call the get method to obtain the array that represents the evolution of a single tumor. And here, this plot is showing you like two different tumors. So the evolution of two different tumors here. Okay, so this is the actual implementation. And first, the first thing I want to mention is that on the top, the single task is going to be this function called tumor par. And then we're going to construct this vector of future objects. And after that, we're inside a for loop, we're going to use the async to return these future objects and to put those objects into the vector. And so what async does is that you can specify a launch policy. And here we have used this launch async to explicitly state that we want each task to be executed in a separate thread. And so after that, we want to assign each tumor with a unique seed. And then there are other parameters for generating a tumor, and all these other parameters, including the transition rate matrix, the initial population, are going to be same across all the tumors. And finally, we're going to call the get method to obtain those population arrays and to put them inside a vector. And finally, we're going to use Parallelizing algorithm to obtain some statistical information of these tumors. So here, the algorithm I use is the reduce, which performs a generalized sum of elements in a container. So as you can see, to actually get access of those elements, you need those iterators from the container. And also, reduce need an initial value as the accumulator for this generalized sum. And specifically, we want to identify the execution policy so that this algorithm is actually going to be done in a parallel way. And here is another example which I used to compute the waiting time distributions of those tumors. And in this example, instead of doing a reduce directly, I'm going to apply a transformation to each of the 2D array and then doing a generalized sum. So to do this, I'm using this transform reduce, and as you can see, besides those launch policy, besides the iterators and the initial array, I'm going to I need to specify the binary option in this generalized sum, which is the stu plus over the arrays here, and also there's going to be a unary operation that is written in this lambda expression. Okay, and basically I have finished what I want to talk here, and there's a performance test telling me that this is really going to save researchers a lot of time for doing these computer simulations. And yeah, finally I have some concluding remarks. So, so my background is in mathematics, and I'm not really a computer scientist. So I feel like learning Eigen is pretty easy because the documentation is pretty fantastic. And also the future and async are pretty easy to pick up, even for a non-specialist like me. And also computational biology is a rapidly growing field. And today I talked about simulation study, but there are other cool things happening, like analyzing sequencing data, and as well as, like, you might heard of AlphaFold that predicts the structure of proteins. And the major reference of today's talk is going to be Daniel Hansen's new book called Learning More Than C++ for Finance. And this book really helps a lot to learning these C++ features. And I really want to do an advertisement here. And yeah, and that's all I have for today's talk. Thank you for attending. I guess I can take questions.
Thanks. That's a very informative talk. I was just curious on your first use of the distribution or the random number generator.
Yeah.
What was the reason for preferring an exponential distribution over a normal one?
Okay, so this exponential distribution is a random time between those events, right? So it's a time, so it has to be positive. And normal distribution is going to be a distribution over the entire, like, say, real numbers.
Right, okay, thank you.
Could you show this slide with the sizes of your examples again?
Sizes of my,
Here.
maybe this one? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I guess if I understood it correctly, one iteration step is you have your numbers, and then you use some randomness to generate a new step. So I guess you do not use a standard Markov chain with matrix multiplication because the size is too big.
No, so the stochastic process I'm looking at is on continuous time. So it's not going to be a Markov chain on, like, discrete time. So I actually can't use transition matrix. And here, I guess the correct terminology for the transition matrix here is going to be the transition Simon operator, if you have heard of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, great talk. Yeah,
Thank you.
I know we spoke last night, but
Yeah.
I was curious. So you're using the standard parallel algorithms, reduce, transform, reduce,
Yeah.
but not for each. Instead of using for each, you're implementing it manually, and I
Yeah.
can guess why. Is it because for each doesn't parallelize if it doesn't have enough loop iterations?
So I guess this is hard to answer. So I think I learned from Daniel's book about these algorithms. So I kind of choose transform and to choose the reduce and transform reduce because there are kind of similar examples. So I think I know for each, but I'm more familiar with these two. So that's the reason here.
So I mean, I might have chosen an implementation strategy that uses only transform
Okay.
or only transform reduce, because if you're in the usual Monte Carlo modeling position of I only care about statistics
Yeah.
that I accumulate, then it's a single transform reduce. You
Right.
simulate
right.
in parallel without dependencies, and then you reduce over it. So it's a transform reduce.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So if there are any questions, that's it.